Welcome to Scotty's Pod, where we cut through the noise to bring you the essential insights from complex topics. I'm Scotty, your guide in unraveling fascinating information.
And I'm Amber. It's great to be here. And to you, our curious listener, consider us your personal guides through the layers of information.
That's right. Our mission is to extract those impactful nuggets of knowledge, offering you that aha moment without, all the overwhelming data.
Exactly, getting right to the heart of it.
And today, we are embarking on a deep dive into one of ancient Egypt's most, intriguing archaeological puzzles, the enigmatic scoop marks at the Aswan Quarry.
Yes, Aswan. Those marks are really something else when you see them up close.
They really are. Now, this is part one of our exploration, and our focus today will be squarely on let's say, the conventional information, the accepted theories surrounding these mysterious yet kind of ubiquitous markings.
Right. Before we get into the more out there ideas, we need to understand the baseline. What does mainstream archaeology tell us?
Precisely. And the Aswan Quarry itself. It's more than just a site. It's a monumental testament to history and human ingenuity, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's a place that literally holds the blueprint of how ancient Egyptians extracted, shaped, and somehow moved just monumental amounts of granite.
It really does. When most of us picture ancient Egypt, our minds immediately go to the pyramids, right?
Yeah.
Temples, the hieroglyphs.
Yes, the finished products, the spectacular stuff.
But before any of those colossal structures could rise, the story truly began deep within the earth, in places exactly like Aswan.
These quarries aren't just historical footnotes. They are living, open-air museums. Museums of ancient ambition, engineering prowess, and frankly, the sheer grit of the people who built a civilization that still kind of leaves us speechless today.
So to truly understand these marks, we first need to transport ourselves back, not just in time, but physically, to the very heart of ancient Egyptian engineering, the Aswan Quarry itself.
Let's do it. So imagine a sprawling landscape. We're talking huge. It stretches for approximately 20 square kilometers. That's, roughly 7.7 square miles?
Wow, that's a massive area.
It is, and it's located directly adjacent to the modern city of Aswan, cradled right there by the life-giving waters of the Nile River.
You can almost picture it, this vast, undulating expanse of rock.
Exactly. Dominated by those distinctive pink and red hues of granite. It's visually striking even before you consider the history.
And within this immense quarry landscape, there are specific, historically significant areas, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
You have Shalel, for instance, which covers both extensive northern and southern quarry zones, huge areas in themselves.
Okay.
Then just offshore in the Nile, you've got the nearby islands. Elephantine and Sahel were also integral parts of this monumental extraction operation.
So it wasn't just one spot, it was a whole region dedicated to this.
Precisely. This wasn't some small, isolated digging. It was an industrial-scale enterprise, designed specifically to fuel the architectural ambitions of pharaohs for millennia.
And its historical significance is just profound, especially when you consider its enduring impact. Aswan wasn't just a source of granite.
No, it was the primary source, basically the heartbeat of ancient Egyptian hardstone construction. Anything major in granite, odds are it started here.
And we're not talking about a brief period of activity here either. This went on for ages.
Oh, yeah. The rhythmic pounding of hammerstones against granite echoed through these valleys from as far back as the Old Kingdom. That's around 2686 BC.
Incredible. So thousands of years before the Romans even showed up.
Absolutely. And quarrying continued relentlessly through the Middle Kingdom, the New Kingdom, right through the late period. It even extended well into the Greco-Roman era.
So an almost unbroken chain of activity spanning thousands of years. That just tells you how vital Aswan was.
It really does. And the sheer volume of granite extracted from Aswan is just astonishing. It's truly comparable only to the massive amounts of limestone and sandstone they quarried elsewhere along the Nile. But granite is so much harder.
Right. And when you contemplate that all of this was achieved without modern machinery, no bulldozers, no hydraulic lifts, certainly no explosives.
It just underscores not only the sheer manpower involved, but the incredibly sophisticated planning, the logistical mastery, the resource management required.
It wasn't just brute force, was it? It had to be orchestrated brilliance. on a scale we often struggle to comprehend even with our technology today.
Exactly. And what's remarkable, truly remarkable, is that today, much of this ancient industrial landscape is preserved.
It's an open-air museum now, right? Protected.
Yes, officially protected as an archaeological site. You can literally walk through it, you can touch the stone, and see the direct evidence of ancient practices, almost as if the workers just stepped away for lunch.
That's amazing. A direct, tangible window into how these colossal projects actually came to life. An unfiltered look at their methods, their scale.
Exactly. It's right there in front of you.
And when we talk about Aswan granite, we're talking about some of the most iconic structures and artifacts, things that define ancient Egypt for the whole world.
Definitely. Many of those towering obelisks you see standing proud in cities across the globe, London, New York, Paris, Rome.
They came from here.
Many of them originated right here in Aswan. Take Cleopatra's Needle, for example. That iconic piece of Aswan granite now sits on the banks of the Thames in London.
Wow. And not just obelisks.
No. Think about the massive, beautifully carved sarcophagi, those stone coffins for legendary pharaohs like Djoser, Sneferu, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure.
The pyramid builders.
The very same. These sarcophagi were often hewn from Aswan's hard stone, designed to protect royal remains for eternity.
And didn't some key parts of the Great Pyramid itself come from Aswan?
Absolutely. Perhaps most impressively, the Grand Gallery and the King's Chamber within Khufu's Great Pyramid itself, an engineering marvel.
These roof beams.
Exactly. Those massive, precision-cut granite blocks weighing many, many tons each all came on an arduous journey from Aswan, hundreds of kilometers north down the Nile.
It just gives you a profound sense of this material's importance and the staggering logistical feats involved in moving it across ancient landscapes. Just incredible.
It really is. It's not just about the raw material, but the ambition it represented and the mastery required to transform it.
And speaking of ambition, maybe the crown jewel of the Aswan Quarry, for many archaeologists and visitors anyway, is the unfinished obelisk.
Ah, yes. The big one. It's a colossal piece of stone that tells such a fascinating story. A story of both grand aspirations and, well, sudden, unforeseen challenges.
Okay, let's unpack this monumental undertaking, the unfinished obelisk, located in the northern quarry at Aswan. It's truly colossal. It's a testament to ancient Egyptian dreams on a scale they never quite matched again.
It really is the largest known ancient obelisk, almost 1/3 larger than any other obelisk ever successfully erected.
So how big are we talking?
If it had been completed and successfully raised, it would have stood around 41.75 meters tall. That's about 137 feet.
137 feet. That's taller than many modern 10-story buildings.
Easily. And its weight. Estimates vary slightly, but somewhere between 1,090 to 1,200 short tons.
Wait, say that again? 1,200 tons.
Yep, 1,200 tons. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the equivalent weight of, say, over 500 average-sized cars. Or about 6 fully loaded Boeing 747 jumbo jets, all carved from a single piece of stone.
That's mind-boggling. Imagine the immense pressure that weight would exert not just on the stone itself during extraction, but on any transport mechanism, any foundation.
The engineering challenge wasn't just moving the weight, it was distributing that immense force without crushing the underlying ground or, crucially, the obelisk itself.
So who commissioned this beast?
Its creation is generally thought to have been commissioned by the formidable female pharaoh Hatshepsut.
Hatshepsut, 18th dynasty, right?
Exactly. Over 3,500 years ago, Hatshepsut was a powerful and ambitious ruler, known for her massive building projects, and this obelisk would have been a crowning achievement.
Was it meant to stand alone?
Likely not. It was possibly intended to complement what we now know as the Lateran obelisk.
The one in Rome.
That's the one. It originally stood as one of a pair at the Temple of Karnak. So Hatshepsut was likely planning another matching giant. It really speaks to a ruler who was thinking on the grandest possible scale, pushing the absolute boundaries of what was technologically possible at the time.
So obelisks, we see them, these towering, four-sided, tapered monuments, often at temple entrances. What do they mean to the Egyptians?
Well, the ancient Egyptians called them tekeinu. We use the Greek term obeliskos, which gives us obelisk.
Tekeinu. Okay.
They symbolize really the peak of ancient Egyptian ingenuity and engineering, often associated with the sun god Ra, reflecting the sun's rays from their pyramid-shaped tops, representing stability, creation, maybe even connecting the earth and the sky.
And they were so revered, so coveted, even by later civilizations.
Oh, absolutely. More than half of the remaining ancient obelisks are now actually outside of Egypt. Italy alone, for example, is home to 13 of them.
13, just in Italy.
Yep. A testament to their enduring appeal and the sheer effort involved in transporting these monolithic pieces across continents and oceans centuries later. The Romans were particularly obsessed with them.
But the unfinished obelisk, as its name clearly suggests, never left its granite bed. What happened?
Tragedy struck, essentially. The project was abandoned because a massive crack appeared in the granite itself as it was being freed from the bedrock.
Oh no, after all that work.
Exactly. And this wasn't a small fissure you could patch up. It was a major structural defect that would have compromised the integrity of the entire monument. You can still see it today, this huge crack running diagonally through the obelisk.
It's still attached.
Yes. The bottom side remains stubbornly attached to the bedrock. It's a permanent reminder of this incredible ambition, a dream unfulfilled, but incredibly instructive for us.
How so? Instructive.
Well, it highlights that even with their immense skill and knowledge, ancient engineers faced material limitations. They were working with natural stone, and there were inherent risks they couldn't always predict or control, especially at this scale.
And ironically, while its unfinished state might seem like a failure from their perspective, it's actually transformed this site into an invaluable archaeological classroom for us.
Absolutely. The unfinished obelisk provides incredible direct insights into ancient Egyptian stoneworking techniques that we'd otherwise probably only guess at.
You can actually see the tool marks.
Clearly, etched right into the stone, visible proof of their labor. You can see where they were pounding away. And there are even ochre-colored lines painted on the surface.
What were those for?
Essentially ancient project management marks. They seem to indicate where different work areas were assigned, how far progress had been made in different sections, maybe even delineating individual worker zones or shifts.
Wow. Like a freeze frame of ancient labor.
Yeah.
A snapshot of a moment thousands of years ago when work suddenly just stopped.
Precisely that. They even discovered an unfinished, partly worked obelisk base nearby in 2005, adding another remarkable piece to this puzzle and further illuminating their methodical approach to these colossal projects. It wasn't just the obelisk itself, they planned the base too.
It's a truly unique archaeological record then. A tangible textbook for understanding ancient quarrying.
Couldn't put it better myself.
Okay, so now, let's get to the heart of today's deep dive.
Right.
Those perplexing scoop marks that are so characteristic of this site.
Right. The main event.
Yeah, let's really unpack these scoop marks because they're truly a signature feature of the Aswan Quarry, and frankly, they look quite peculiar if you don't know what you're looking at.
They do. They're not what you'd intuitively expect for stone cutting.
When you examine the granite here, you see these distinct, irregular depressions or grooves. They aren't smooth or linear cuts like you might imagine. They're concave, almost like someone took a giant ice cream scoop to the rock.
That's a good way to put it. Scooped out patterns.
And what's particularly striking is how widespread they are. They're not just in one corner.
No, they are absolutely everywhere. You find them on the quarry floor itself, directly on the unfinished obelisk, on its top surface, down its sides, even on the underneath portions where it's still attached to the bedrock.
So even underneath where it's hard to reach.
Yep. And all along the adjacent bedrock and quarry walls, too. They are not just isolated anomalies, they're incredibly ubiquitous. It's a consistent pattern of workmanship across the entire site.
And you mentioned this wasn't just at Aswan.
Correct. Similar marks have also been found in other ancient quarries, like the quartzite quarry at Gebel Gulab on the west bank of the Nile. Quartzite is even harder than granite, so it indicates this was a widely applied technique for tough stones.
Okay, so first things first, these aren't natural, right? No weird erosion patterns?
No, absolutely not. To be unequivocally clear, these are not some natural geological formations resulting from millennia of weathering or erosion or tectonic shifts or anything like that.
Okay.
These scoop marks are definitively the result of intentional quarrying techniques. A deliberate shaping of the stone by human hands using very specific tools and methods. They are a direct signature of ancient labor.
So when we see these consistent, deliberate marks, the immediate question arises, how? How did they make them? What's the conventional explanation?
The prevailing theory, the one you'll find in most textbooks and archaeological reports, points to what's known as the pounding stone theory. This is the foundational explanation for these unique depressions.
Pounding stones. Can you tell us about those?
Yes, the primary tools implicated in creating these marks are dolerite hammerstones, often referred to simply as pounders or mauls.
Dolerite, what is that exactly?
It's a type of very hard, dense, and tough igneous rock. Think of it like a natural, super hard hammer. Crucially, it's harder than the granite they were working.
So they weren't using metal tools for this primary work.
Not for the initial rough shaping and trenching, no. These were handheld pieces of dolerite. Some found on site are roughly the size of a grapefruit, perfectly rounded and smooth from just hours and hours of use. Others are more angular, maybe newer tools, or perhaps used for different stages of the work.
And the technique, how do they use them?
It involved rhythmically pounding these dolerite stones directly against the granite's surface. Now, this isn't a cutting or chipping action in the modern sense, like with a chisel. It's more of a bruising and pulverizing action.
Bruising the rock.
Yeah. The impact of the harder dolerite essentially pulverizes and bruises off tiny flakes and grains of the softer granite. It basically crushes the surface layer. This method was used for the rough cutting of the stone, for shaping large blocks, and for removing imperfections before any final smoothing or finishing could happen.
Okay, so they're basically smashing the granite away bit by bit. But is there actual proof for this? Tools found on site?
Oh, yes. The archaeological evidence for this theory is remarkably strong. It's far more than just speculation. Archaeologists have found literally thousands of these dolerite balls scattered all over the Aswan Quarry site.
Thousands.
Thousands. Both the extensively worn-out rounded ones and the more angular, perhaps less used ones. These are the actual tools. They were just left there when the work stopped.
So the tools are there, but do the marks match the tools?
Perfectly. This is the crucial part. These dolerite pounders leave very specific pit scars on the granite. You can see these distinctive overlapping circular depressions where the granite's mineral grains were pulverized and flaked off by the impact.
So it creates a kind of bruised or pockmarked texture.
Exactly. And these marks are demonstrably different from the kind of marks left by metal tools. Metal chisels or picks, which came into more widespread use much later, leave precise linear grooves or shearing marks, a completely different signature.
So the tools found on site create exactly the type of marks we see on the stone. It's like finding the painter's brush right next to their distinctive brushstrokes on the canvas.
Precisely. It's a very strong correlation.
But then the deeper question arises, you touched on this. If you're trying to extract large, flat-sided blocks of stone, why create these irregular scoop marks? Why not just pound the surface flat? It seems counterintuitive if you're aiming for a straight cut.
It does seem odd at first glance, doesn't it? But there are several compelling and actually quite ingenious reasons for this specific technique, according to the conventional view.
Okay, let's hear them. Efficiency.
Firstly, yes, efficiency in material removal. It turns out that creating these scooped ridges, these high points between the scoops, actually allowed for much easier and faster stone removal.
How so?
Well, think about it. Once these ridges were formed, sticking up between the hollows, a well-aimed, forceful whack with a heavy pounding stone could cause these high points, these ridges, to simply snap off. It's much easier to break off a ridge than to pulverize a whole flat surface down.
I see. You're leveraging the stone structure, creating weak points.
Exactly. You're leveraging the mechanics of fracture. It saves significant pounding effort, time, and sheer physical energy compared to constantly trying to level the entire surface millimeter by millimeter.
That makes sense. Work smarter, not just harder.
Precisely. But there's more to it than just breaking the stone faster.
Oh, like what?
This is where it gets truly fascinating and reveals the profound organizational capabilities of the ancient Egyptians. The organizational advantage.
Organization. How do scoop marks help organize workers?
Well, these scooped patterns weren't just about raw efficiency in breaking stone. They facilitated an incredibly sophisticated workflow in a massive, large-scale industrial operation. Think about trying to manage a workforce of hundreds, possibly thousands of people without modern communication, without spreadsheets, without even a standardized clock or stopwatch.
Yeah, coordinating that would be a nightmare.
Right. But these marks seemingly allowed foremen to assign specific working areas and even progress targets to individual laborers or small teams.
How would that work?
For instance, a worker might be assigned a task like clear 4 scoops in their particular section along a trench being dug around a block. The scoops provided a visible, easily quantifiable unit of work.
So you could just look down the line and see who's done their 4 scoops.
Exactly. This system enabled easy monitoring of progress. Imagine a foreman walking along the trench. They could instantly see who was working where, how much progress each person or team had made, and who might be falling behind or needing assistance.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's clever.
And it gets better. They even had painted lines, often in red ochre, on the quarry walls or the stone itself that seemed to correlate with the scoops. These acted almost like a highly visible, real-time project report for the supervisors.
Like telemarks for progress?
Kind of. And these progress marks were often spaced at regular intervals, frequently corresponding to a standard Egyptian unit of measurement, the cubit.
The cubit, that's about an elbow to fingertip, right? Around 52 centimeters?
That's the one, about half a meter. So this standardized unit of measurement, combined with the visual scoop count, meant foremen could quickly assess progress across vast quarry faces. It was almost like a real-time progress bar etched into the rock itself, ensuring consistent work output from their teams.
It's an early form of project management and accountability built right into the physical work itself. That's actually brilliant.
Isn't it? It shows a level of systematic thinking that's really impressive. And beyond that, some researchers suggest these scoop marks might have served yet another purpose:
Go on.
aiding measurement and finishing.
How could these rough scoops help with precision work?
The idea is that the low points of the scoops, the deepest parts, could have been utilized with tools called boning rods. Imagine a simple, straight measuring rod.
Okay.
By placing this straight rod across the low points of several scoops, workers could establish 3 or more reference points. These points could then be used to check if a surface was level, or to define a perfectly flat plane or a precise angle for the next stage of cutting or finishing.
Like connecting the dots to create a guideline.
Exactly. It was a way to achieve remarkable accuracy, even before the final, painstaking grinding and polishing stages that would smooth the surface of the finished monument. It highlights how these seemingly simple, rough marks likely served multiple sophisticated purposes: primary extraction, workflow management, and preparation for precision work.
So it really wasn't just brute force. It was brute force applied intelligently, systematically, and with a keen eye for efficiency and management.
That's the conventional understanding, yes.
And was pounding the only technique they used to speed things up. What about other methods?
Well, another key conventional explanation for enhancing quarrying efficiency, something likely used in conjunction with the pounding, is the role of fire setting.
Fire setting. You mean lighting fires on the rock?
Exactly that. This is a truly fascinating technique, and it really speaks to their deep practical understanding of the properties of stone.
How did it work?
The process involved intensely heating the granite. For example, by building large campfires directly on the rock surface they wanted to remove, or perhaps by piling hot coals from fires built nearby over specific areas.
Okay, get the rock really hot.
Extremely hot. This heating would then be followed by allowing the rock to cool naturally. Sometimes cooling might have been hastened by pouring cold water over the hot stone, creating thermal shock, though the main effect actually comes from the differential cooling rates within the stone itself.
What does that do to hard granite?
This heating and cooling cycle induces a dramatic change in the granite's crystalline structure. See, granite is made up of different minerals, primarily quartz, feldspar, and mica. When you heat them up and let them cool, these different minerals expand and contract at slightly different rates.
So they're fighting against each other inside the stone.
In a way, yes. This differential thermal expansion and contraction creates countless microscopic cracks and fissures throughout the stone. It doesn't necessarily shatter it immediately, but it essentially pre-weakens it quite significantly.
So you're creating a network of invisible fractures within it, making it far more susceptible to breaking apart with the next impact from a pounder.
Precisely. It's strategically altering its internal cohesion, preparing it for much, much easier removal. It makes the pounding work far more effective.
And how much more effective are we talking? Did it make a big difference?
Oh, a dramatic difference. Almost revolutionary, according to experiments. Archaeologists and engineers have conducted tests replicating this method.
Wow.
Some studies indicate a staggering increase in the removal rate. For instance, one set of experiments suggested an increase from removing maybe just 6 millimeters of granite per pounding session without fire.
Okay, 6 millimeters, not much.
To an incredible 20 centimeters per session after proper fire setting.
Whoa, from 6 millimeters to 20 centimeters, that's like over 30 times faster.
Yeah, it's a massive difference. This suggests that fire setting could drastically reduce the overall time needed for quarrying. That hypothetical 12 to 18-month job for the unfinished obelisk trench, maybe down to 3 months, perhaps even less, if fire setting was used expertly and extensively.
That kind of efficiency gain would have been absolutely critical for making these massive projects even feasible.
Exactly. And importantly, this isn't just theory. Archaeologists have found direct physical evidence supporting its use at Aswan.
What kind of evidence?
Remnants of ash and charcoal have been discovered in excavations within the quarry trenches, alongside clear evidence of thermally fractured rockstone that shows the characteristic cracking and spalling caused by intense heat. So the evidence on the ground backs it up.
So it's generally understood now that fire setting was likely used in conjunction with pounding. It served as a preparatory step.
Yes, exactly. Weakening those incredibly hard granite surfaces before applying the dolerite tools. It wasn't necessarily one method or the other, but an integrated, multi-stage technique designed to maximize output and overcome the sheer difficulty of working with granite using Stone Age tools.
Okay, so with pounding, maybe enhanced by fire setting, what does all this mean for the overall project timelines? How long did it actually take to carve something huge like the unfinished obelisk using these methods?
Well, let's talk about those efficiency and time estimates that researchers have put forward. There was a notable Egyptologist, Reginald Engelbach, working in the early 20th century.
Engelbach, right. I've heard the name.
He conducted a fascinating practical experiment that provides some concrete data. He actually got workers to try it out.
What did he find?
He demonstrated, through his trials, that about an hour of sustained hand pounding with a typical dolerite hammer could remove approximately 5 millimeters of granite surface.
5 millimeters an hour. Okay. Slow going.
It is. But based on this direct empirical observation, he did the math. He calculated that the entire trench around the colossal unfinished obelisk, which is huge, remember, could potentially have been dug in about 7.2 months of continuous work by a dedicated team.
7 months. Okay, that's still a significant undertaking for ancient standards, but it puts it within the realm of possibility, especially for a highly organized state project.
Exactly. And when you look at the broader estimates for quarrying the unfinished obelisk, using these conventional methods, primarily just pounding with rounded dolerite pounders, they typically range from maybe 12 to 18 months of continuous work.
But that's without fully factoring in the enhancements.
Right. As we've just discussed, strategically incorporating fire setting to pre-weaken the stone and maybe using those more efficient, sharp-edged, angular pounders for the initial rough work that could further reduce these timelines quite dramatically.
So those estimates suggesting maybe 3 months or less aren't totally crazy if they really optimize the process with fire.
It's certainly plausible within the conventional framework, yes. It depends on how extensively and effectively they applied the fire setting technique.
This brings us to a crucial point about the human labor involved and the organizational capacity of ancient Egypt. It's easy to imagine just hordes of slaves being forced to do this.
That's a common misconception, but the archaeological and historical evidence paints a different picture, doesn't it?
It really does. It strongly suggests that ancient Egyptian quarrying, especially for prestigious projects, was primarily performed by highly capable, dedicated, and often highly skilled craftsmen and laborers.
These weren't just random people dragged off the street. Many were likely compensated for their work, perhaps with food rations, housing, beer, other necessities, maybe even land grants or tax exemptions in some cases.
These were hardened laborers, professional artisans even, who often worked on these monumental projects for years, maybe even their entire working lives. They developed incredibly specialized skills in stone extraction and shaping.
Definitely. This wasn't some haphazard, unorganized effort. It speaks volumes about the incredibly advanced organizational capabilities of dynastic Egypt.
We have parallels for this kind of organization, don't we? Like that diary that was found.
Ah, you mean the Diary of Mirror. Yes, that was an incredible discovery back in 2013. It's the oldest known papyrus document with text.
What did it describe?
It provides an unparalleled first-hand account of the daily lives and logistics involved in a monumental project during the reign of Khufu, the very pharaoh who built the Great Pyramid.
So contemporary with the Pyramid Age.
Exactly. Mirror was apparently a mid-level official, and his diary detailed the meticulous coordination of his 200-person crew. It talks about their daily activities, food rations, and importantly, the sophisticated bureaucratic system for transporting limestone blocks from the Tur quarries across the Nile to the Giza Plateau.
Wow. detailed records like that from 4,500 years ago?
It shows a society with complex administrative structures capable of mobilizing vast resources and human capital over extended periods, keeping track of everything. That level of bureaucratic and logistical capacity was absolutely crucial for managing endeavors like the Aswan Quarries or the Giza pyramids. It was far from a simple, unorganized effort driven purely by whips.
That context is so important. And you mentioned earlier that the tools themselves were adapted, not just rounded pounders.
Yes, the tools were continuously adapted and likely refined over time. While we mentioned the angular dolerite pounders probably being more efficient for rapid material removal compared to the older, smoother, rounded ones.
Which might have been just worn-out tools anyway.
Possibly, but the ingenuity likely went further. There's compelling evidence, or at least strong theoretical grounds and experimental support, for the concept of using mechanical leverage to amplify the force of the pounding.
Mechanical leverage. How would that work with just stones and maybe wood?
Well, imagine these heavy pounding stones, maybe larger ones, not just being handheld and swung. What if they were mounted securely onto the end of sturdy logs? Teams of workers could then swing these logs like battering rams against the quarry face.
Okay, like a ram. More force.
Or, perhaps even more effectively, imagine suspending heavy pounders from sturdy wooden frameworks using ropes. They could then be swung like pendulums against the rock face.
Letting gravity do a lot of the work.
Exactly. Gravity enhances the force of impact dramatically. Some research and experimental archaeology projects trying these methods suggest they could increase productivity significantly, maybe by tenfold or even more per worker involved.
10 times the removal rate. That's huge.
It is. And crucially, this kind of method also drastically reduces the sheer physical exertion required from the individual workers. It transforms an incredibly strenuous, potentially injury-causing, back-breaking task into something more sustainable over the long hours and months needed for these projects.
It points to a deep, practical understanding of basic physics and mechanics, applied cleverly to overcome the limitations of pure manual labor, using gravity, using levers.
Simple machines, applied brilliantly.
Fascinating how ancient engineers applied such simple yet powerful physics to enhance such strenuous work, essentially making the seemingly impossible possible.
It really makes you appreciate their ingenuity.
Now, let's get into some deeper insights, perhaps, into the overall quarrying process at Aswan. Maybe looking beyond just the scoop marks themselves. What else can the quarry tell us?
Well, one of the most intriguing and frankly baffling when you first see them, features you find scattered around the quarry are these incredibly deep, vertical test pits.
Test pits, like for prospecting.
Exactly. Some of these pits extend 30, even 40 feet straight down into the solid granite bedrock. And they're often incredibly narrow, maybe just wide enough for one person to squeeze into.
40 feet down, just to test the stone.
Yes. Their primary function was absolutely critical to assess the quality of the granite in the deeper layers below the surface.
Why was that so important? Isn't granite, well, granite?
Not quite. Granite found near the surface, the stuff exposed to weather for millennia, is often inferior. It can be riddled with hidden natural cracks, fissures, and weathering defects caused by temperature changes, water seepage, plant roots, all sorts of things.
Okay, so the surface stuff might look okay, but be weak inside.
Precisely. The core of the quarry, however, the deeper, unweathered stone, yielded much higher quality material. Often characterized by larger, more uniformly distributed quartz crystal inclusions, resulting in a stronger, more visually consistent and more aesthetically pleasing stone, the kind suitable for monumental pieces like obelisks, statues, and royal sarcophagi. They were looking for that premium quality stuff, checking for consistency, color, and structural integrity that only deep excavation could reliably reveal.
But just imagine the immense challenges of digging such narrow, deep pits using only pounding methods.
It boggles the mind. It would have required workers to operate in extremely cramped, awkward, crouching positions for hours on end.
Probably with limited light, maybe just from oil lamps or reflected sunlight bouncing down.
And battling the constant dust from pulverizing the granite, and then the logistics of simply removing the pulverized granite debris from such depths, probably using small baskets or leather sacks hauled up manually, hand over hand.
It truly underscores the dedication, the specialized skills, and the sheer tenacity of these ancient quarrymen. They went to extraordinary lengths just to check the quality of the raw material before committing to a major extraction.
They absolutely did. They couldn't afford to waste months or years quarrying a giant block only to find a fatal flaw deep inside.
And speaking of working with the stone, rather than just against it.
Yeah.
Did they take advantage of the natural features of the rock?
Oh, consistently. Ancient quarrymen demonstrated a very practical and intelligent approach by strategically exploiting natural cracks, joints, and seams within the granite.
Features already present in the rock.
Yes, geological weaknesses, often caused by natural faulting millions of years ago, or stress release within the rock formation. These would often have been visible from the ground level, or certainly uncovered during the initial surface clearing and those test pits.
So instead of trying to cut through solid rock everywhere,
Exactly. They leverage the stone's inherent characteristics. By identifying and targeting these natural weaknesses, they could maximize their efficiency. They would often align their extraction trenches to follow these seams, initiating breaks along lines of least resistance.
that would save immense amounts of pounding effort and time compared to trying to cut through solid, unblemished rock.
Absolutely. It was a testament to their keen observation skills and what we might call practical field geology. They understood their material intimately.
And you mentioned earlier that you can actually distinguish the tool marks left by different eras and techniques when you look closely.
Yes, definitely. The Stone Age tooling marks found at Aswan, specifically those distinctive bruised or pockmarked textures we discussed, left by the dolerite pounders, are profoundly different from the marks left by tools from later periods.
Like from Roman times.
For example, yes, in Roman-era quarries, like Mons Claudianus, also in Egypt, which supplied granite to Rome, metal tools like iron chisels and picks were much more prevalent for primary extraction.
And they leave different marks.
Completely different. The marks left by metal chisels are typically precise, linear grooves or sharp V-shaped cuts, indicating a shearing or slicing action into the stone. They might also use point chisels, leaving conical pits.
Whereas the Aswan marks from the Pharaonic era
Are characterized by those overlapping, shallow, circular impact points. Areas where the granite grains were literally pulverized and flaked off through repeated crushing force from the round or angular pounders. It's like reading the signature of the tools themselves, a distinct technological language etched into the stone across different time periods.
That's a great way to think about it. A language in the stone.
Indeed. And while these scoop marks from pounding are such a prominent and characteristic feature at Aswan, especially around the large monuments like the obelisks, it's important to remember that ancient Egyptians weren't limited to just this single approach.
They had other tricks up their sleeves.
They utilized a diverse range of quarrying methods, often adapting their techniques depending on the type of stone they were working with. Sandstone and limestone behave very differently from granite, and also adapting to the specific geological conditions of the quarry site and the desired outcome for the final product. Their toolkit and techniques evolved and adapted over millennia.
So beyond pounding and maybe fire setting for granite, what else was in their repertoire?
Well, one fascinating technique, particularly effective for softer stones like limestone and sandstone, but sometimes claimed for granite too, though debated, is using wedges.
Wooden wedges.
Yes, often wooden wedges. This involved carving narrow grooves or channels into the stone, perhaps using harder stone tools or maybe early copper chisels. Into these precisely cut grooves, they would then hammer in tightly fitting wooden wedges, typically made from a dense, strong wood like sycamore fig or acacia, which had been thoroughly dried in the sun.
Okay, wedges hammered into grooves. Then what?
Then comes the ingenious trick. They would repeatedly soak these sun-dried wooden wedges with water.
Soak them with water. Why?
Believe it or not, the wood, as it absorbed the moisture, would swell, and dried wood swells with incredible force. This expansion pressure, exerted uniformly along the groove within the rock, would build up immense stress.
Enough to break the stone.
Often, yes, enough to cause the rock to fracture relatively cleanly along the line of the wedges, breaking off large, predictable blocks. It's a brilliant, simple, yet incredibly effective method that relies entirely on a deep understanding of natural materials and their physical properties, the power of swelling wood.
That's amazing, using water and wood to break rock.
It is. And then, of course, in later periods, as technology advanced and metallurgy improved, they certainly began incorporating metal tools more widely.
Copper first, then bronze, then iron?
Generally, yes. Hardened copper chisels appear relatively early, then better bronze alloys, and eventually iron or perhaps even early forms of steel chisels were used for carving, splitting rock, and especially for finishing work.
So metal would be better for smaller, more refined pieces, or for adding details?
Exactly. Metal chisels offered greater precision and control for finer work compared to the broader, more force-intensive pounding method used for the initial massive block extraction. It shows a clear evolution of quarrying techniques over thousands of years. Those scoop marks really represent that earlier monumental phase of primary hardstone extraction, which was gradually supplemented and in some areas eventually replaced by other, often more refined methods as technology progressed.
So, bringing this all together, what does this conventional picture mean for you, our listener? Well, we've taken a pretty comprehensive look today at the standard accepted understanding of the Aswan scoop marks. We've moved beyond just seeing them as weird dents, hopefully, to exploring the profound ingenuity behind them.
We've covered the types of tools they likely employed, those hard dolomite pounders. We've talked about the clever techniques they mastered, like creating ridges for efficient braking, the possible use of fire setting to weaken the stone, and maybe even mechanical aids like pendulum pounders.
We've looked at the estimated timeframes for these colossal projects, months, not necessarily decades, and the absolutely impressive organizational capabilities of the ancient Egyptians managing large workforces and complex logistics.
It really paints a picture of human determination, practical innovation, and large-scale project management happening centuries, even millennia, before we had fancy software or modern machinery to help us.
It really does. It makes you wonder, given their constraints, if ancient Egyptians were, in some ways, maybe even more adept at resourcefulness and large-scale coordination than we sometimes are today with all our advanced technology. It's food for thought, isn't it?
It truly is. The sheer scale and the precision of what they achieved, even accepting the conventional tools and methods we've discussed today, remains truly astounding. It forces us to reconsider the limits of what was possible in the ancient world.
Absolutely. But, as with all great historical puzzles, and Aswan certainly qualifies.
There are always lingering questions, aren't there? Anomalies, observations that don't quite fit neatly into the standard box, alternative perspectives that challenge the conventional narrative.
Things that make you go,
Exactly. Things that push the boundaries of what we think we know and keep researchers digging deeper.
And that is precisely what we'll be diving into next time. We've laid the foundation today with the conventional story.
The established baseline.
But there's more to explore. So make sure you don't miss part 2 of Scotty's Pod. We'll be delving into some of those deeper questions, the persistent anomalies, and some of the alternative theories surrounding these truly enigmatic scoop marks at the Aswan Quarry.
Questions and ideas that continue to spark debate and fascination among archaeologists, engineers, independent researchers, and curious minds alike. It's going to be interesting.
It definitely will be. So to stay informed and join us on that next adventure into the mysteries of Aswan, make sure to like and subscribe to Scotty's Pod wherever you get your deep dives.
Thank you so much for tuning in today and joining us on this journey into ancient Egypt's incredible engineering marvels.
We really appreciate you listening. We'll catch you next time on Scotty's Pod.